We have seen there are four ways of handling deadlock: deadlock avoidance, deadlock prevention, deadlock detection and recovery, and ignoring deadlock. We will start with deadlock avoidance scheme. But before discussing the methods of deadlock avoidance, we shall try to understand what does it mean by deadlock avoidance by comparing it with the deadlock prevention scheme. Deadlock prevention is based on a knowledge that a deadlock will occur only if four necessary conditions meet altogether: mutual exclusion, no preemption, hold and wait, and circular wait. Only if all these four conditions meet together, then deadlock will occur. If we can violate at least one of these four conditions, then in that system deadlock will not occur. So in deadlock prevention scheme, before moving to execution, in the very beginning itself, some constraint is kept. For example, no hold and wait. In this system, hold and wait is not allowed. Now the processes start executing. They will start raising requests for the resources, but now they will raise the requests only by following this constraint or this rule. They will not raise any request which will lead to a hold and wait situation, and if there is no hold and wait condition, then deadlock will not occur in this system. So in the very beginning, some constraint is imposed and the processes will raise the requests only according to this constraint, and hence it is made sure that the deadlock will not occur. As a result, we are preventing the deadlock. So here we are actually restricting the way the processes can raise their requests. But in deadlock avoidance scheme, in the very beginning itself, we are not keeping any constraints. The system moves to execution. Here the processes are free to make their requests. No constraints are imposed. There are no restrictions on the way the processes can make their requests. And usually the processes will not raise all their requests in the very beginning itself. They will start raising the requests during runtime. When the processes execute, on the way they will come to know they need some resource, and then they request for the resources. So in the very beginning, when resources are not allocated and not being requested for, we can consider our system to be in a safe state. A safe state is a state in which deadlock will not occur. In a safe state, deadlock will not occur. So in the very beginning, we can consider our system to be in a safe state where deadlock will not occur. Now the processes start their execution. They will start raising requests for the resources. Whenever some request is received, operating system analyzes whether granting this request will lead to a safe state or not. Suppose it is found out that granting this request will lead only to a safe state, then that request will be actually granted and then the system will move to that safe state. Similarly, suppose some request is received and operating system analyzes and found out that granting this request will lead to an unsafe state. An unsafe state is a state in which deadlock may or may not occur. In an unsafe state, deadlock not always occur, but deadlock may occur. So when a request is received, operating system analyzes it and found out that granting this request will lead to an unsafe state, then system will decide not to move to this unsafe state. For that, this request will not be granted. So here we are avoiding the deadlock. In an unsafe state, there is chance for deadlock. So we are avoiding the deadlock by not moving to that unsafe state, by not granting this request now. That requested resource may be available, but we are not granting it to the process now. We make the process wait for that resource, because if this resource is allocated to this process now, with the remaining resources, we will not be able to handle our entire system without causing deadlock. So for the time being, we will ask that process to wait for the resource, and we will serve some other request which will lead only to a safe state, and that rejected request will be serviced later whenever enough resources are available. So the system will always remain to be in a safe state. It will not move to an unsafe state, and in a safe state deadlock will not occur. So here deadlock will not occur because we will not move to an unsafe state, but we are not ensuring it in the beginning itself. We are making decisions during runtime whether a request to be granted or not. Only those requests will be granted which will keep the system safe. So here there are restrictions on the way the processes can raise the requests, but here the processes can make the requests as they wish. But whether the requests to be granted now or not, those decisions will be made at runtime by the operating system based on some analysis. And for that analysis to be done, operating system needs some prior information or some additional knowledge, such as which all processes will be executed, which all resources will be required by each and every process, and each resource may be having multiple instances. For example, there can be 3 printers. So what is the maximum number of each resource type required by each process? All these information should be gathered in the beginning itself. Then only the system will be able to analyze whether granting a request will lead to a safe state or an unsafe state. But for deadlock prevention, no such additional knowledge is required. And here we are restricting the way the processes can raise requests for the resources. In that sense, here there is less resource utilization. And here in deadlock avoidance, sometimes the resource may be available. Even then we are not allocating it to a process because it may lead to a deadlock situation later. In that sense, here also there is less resource utilization. And in both cases deadlock will not occur. Here we are ensuring it in the very beginning itself, and here we are ensuring it during runtime by using a proper deadlock avoidance method. And there are 2 methods by which we can avoid the deadlock, one by using Banger's algorithm and the other by using a resource allocation graph. So any method used for deadlock avoidance should be able to represent a particular state of the system and should be able to say whether that state is safe or not. So first of all, let's see how to use the Banger's algorithm and resource allocation graph to determine whether a state is a safe state or an unsafe state, and later we shall see how to use these methods for avoiding the deadlock.